Okay, despite the fact that time is seemingly meaningless, it is 2021, and between fan-demanded, auteur-driven passion projects, cinematic universes, and like 1.5 billion streaming services, so much has changed in the last few years when it comes to movie making. However, one thing has stayed the same. There still aren't any really great video game movies. But not to worry, cinephiles, because we may have stumbled onto a new reason why. Real quick up top, please welcome today's guest writer and film aficionado, Matt from Nando v Movies. Oh, that's right. 2 Matts, no waiting. Thanks, buddy. Well, here we are. 5 years after the last time this channel made a video about this topic, and we've seen a new class of video game movies released in the last half-decade. And they've all been fine. Now, of course, some aren't awful, and there's a few that are downright fun. But still, I wouldn't categorize any of them as great. We still haven't seen the video game movie equivalent of a Dark Knight or Fury Road, and no John Wick's or Skyfall-esque gaming-based flicks that led us to a video game film renaissance. But why is this? After all, it isn't like we're facing the exact same problems we were last time we discussed this. Many of today's video game movies being made seem to be coming from the minds of creatives who love and understand the medium of gaming. And some of the games these films are based on even have cinema baked into their DNA. Linear narratives, well-developed characters, loads of cinematic action set pieces. So again, why haven't we seen some of our favorite games elevated to the highest peaks of cinema yet? Well, to explore this question, I'd like to look at 4 recent video game movies that have different versions of the same issue. Assassin's Creed, Rampage, Sonic the Hedgehog, and the newest Mortal Kombat. Again, we are not saying that these movies are bad, just not films most folks outside video game culture might gravitate toward. And heck, some of them have really fun moments in them, like in Sonic's case. I mean, really, how could you dock any points for Jim Carrey chewing so much scenery? But I digress. Here are the descriptions of those 4 movies. 2016's Assassin's Creed follows franchise newcomer Colin Lynch as he struggles to uncover the mystery behind the villainous Abstergo Foundation. 2008's Rampage follows franchise newcomer David Okoye as he and his giant gorilla George team up to stop mutated monsters from destroying Chicago. 2020's Sonic the Hedgehog follows franchise newcomer Tom Wachowski as he and his new friend Sonic race to retrieve a bag of magic rings before they're stolen by the evil Dr. Robotnik. And 2021's Mortal Kombat follows franchise newcomer Cole Young as he discovers his destiny and trains to compete in the Mortal Kombat tournament. Noticing anything similar? Even though these movies couldn't be based off more different games intended for a variety of audiences, they all feature as the protagonist some sort of brand new character. Now, is this intrinsically a bad thing? Well, not necessarily. I mean, it seemed to work fine for the Resident Evil film franchise, at least for a while. It does, however, draw an interesting line to some of the larger issues with these adaptations. These new characters all fill the role of the audience surrogate. They're designed to be essentially blank slates, written as broadly as humanly possible. In fact, their only real defining trait is that they're nice, I guess. Decently agreeable, handsome men who don't have any flaws and that the audience can project their own values onto. Designed to create an access point into a fantastical video game universe. Which, to me, in today's cinematic climate, is just baffling. I mean, we now live in a world where movies starring Bradley Cooper as a talking raccoon are expected to gross $500 million. Okay, so why is it that the team behind the Sonic movie seems to be afraid of a movie where Sonic is the main character? And for that matter, why couldn't the outsider character in Mortal Kombat be one of the Earthrealmers, like Sonya or Jax in the game? Well, one possible explanation comes from Mortal Kombat producer Todd Gardner in an interview he did with comicbook.com. He said, "We needed an access point for everybody to come into the game, but not to heck with any of the canons of the game, not to mess with anybody's backstory, so that in order to keep everybody pristine and keep the game true, we needed a character to come in and meet all those characters." And while I do understand why some folks might think like this, the idea that the audience surrogate main character of a film shouldn't mess with canon seems like a wild choice. Especially considering if you know anything about the current Mortal Kombat universe's canon. All they've done is mess with characters and lore in super fun ways. I mean, in MK11, which I love, it features a set of time-traveling characters interacting with their younger selves, signaling that the canon is probably pretty flexible. So the issue appears now to be that instead of just ignoring fans like some video game movies have in the past, the studios currently might be a bit scared of them, worrying that they'll upset fans if any big changes are made to the canon. But then, of course, the writers want to tell a new story, and the studio wants an accessible on-ramp for a wider audience. which results in the characters we know and love getting sidelined to focus on what usually ends up being a bland new hero. Now, at this point, you might be asking, has there been a recent video game film that's managed to zip past this motion picture pitfall? Actually, there has. I give you Detective Pikachu. That film works as well as it does because it builds on the source material rather than adding new unneeded protagonists, utilizing the main characters of Tim and Pikachu from the game, but then modifying only their characterizations to make their relationship more dynamic on film. Tim is more pokephobic, and Pikachu is more, Ryan Reynoldsy. And those changes help to differentiate the partners like you would expect in any buddy comedy. The writers knew that they could make one small change to existing characters that would positively affect the adaptation without adding the extra bloat of an entirely new character. So, will more video game movies in the future learn from this problem? Actually, I'm pretty hopeful. Both the upcoming Uncharted film and Resident Evil reboot feature casts composed of largely characters from the game. Borderlands is still being cagey on how their new character played by Haley Bennett will be involved, maybe a hint that they're seeing the writing on the wall. Plus, all evidence points to the Last of Us HBO series, focusing mainly on the relationship between Ellie and Joel. And of course, this in no way suggests that any of these will be grand slams, but at least it seems like these adaptations might not stumble in the same way as their predecessors. Progress? In the hands of filmmakers that love and understand the source material, a video game movie doesn't need a brand new audience surrogate ham-fisted into the mix. The diehard fans won't like it because they'll want to see more of the characters they love on screen, and the new folks they want to draw into the franchise won't like it because in order to fit that new character in, they'll most likely be a bland blank slate. And actually, Matt put this concept absolutely perfectly. The main character of an Iron Man movie isn't Iron Man's new best friend Derek. It's Iron Man. So here's hoping the next batch of video game movies focus more on the things that can make them great. Larger-than-life characters going on their own adventures in the worlds that we love. A huge thanks to our legendary patrons, O'Reels1, Kyle Murgatroyd, Joseph Blaine, Dominic Valenciana, Casey Muscha, Alicia Bramble, and Ahmed Ziad Turk.